Well, yeah. Yeah. This is a good sign. This is a good sign.
This is going to keep people active for the cause.
Well. Okay. So first heard about this, specifically about how Snyder Cut apparently streamed more than Endgame because our friend Tyrone Magnus put up a video that had it in the title. And I was like, what? What's he talking about? So then what we ended up doing was looking up the articles. Here's what's going on. Very recently, Zack Snyder said that Warner Brothers has been aggressively anti-Snyder, and yet in China, it has crossed over 250 million views in Migu Video, which is a Chinese streaming platform. It's one of the biggest, probably the most popular in China. I think it is. And it beat Avengers Endgame, making it the most streamed superhero movie, essentially, in the world. And WB still aggressively anti-Snyder. Now, you might have seen some of our previous videos by this point. We just did a couple in the last couple weeks where we've gone really into depth about why we think they should restore the Snyderverse, how ridiculous we think it is. WB, it doesn't even seem to be considering avenues on what to do. That's probably like the most annoying thing is like after they released that Justice League 4K trailer, is like they're really trying to bury this, aren't they? And more than just the fact that they, like, we've already talked so much about how great the numbers are doing. They've already double the numbers. I kind of wanted to hone in a little bit more on what Zack Snyder said, because this is kind of the dilemma that echoes the voice of the fans of him. John, why don't you read it?
So Zack was recently on Jake's Takes. What's that guy's name?
I don't know.
Jake
Hamilton, I think.
Jake Hamilton. You've seen his face before. He was talking to Zack Snyder recently, and he asked basically if Snyder Cut fans should maintain any type of hope. Zack had this to say. I would think about it this way. Yes, Warner Bros. Has been aggressively anti-Snyder, if you will, and that's... What can you say? What can I say? Clearly, they are not interested in my take, but I would also say that they certainly weren't interested in my take on Justice League. They certainly made decisions about that, and I love the characters, and I love the worlds, and I think it's an amazing place to make a movie. It's a glorious IP, so there's that. I don't know what could be done as you go forward, other than I think the fan movement is so strong, and the fan community is so... The intention is so pure, and I really have a huge respect for it. I would hope that cooler heads would prevail with Warner Bros., and that they would see that there's this massive fandom that wants more of that, but who knows what they'll do.
I actually did hear the audio of when he said it, and it does feel a little bit like he himself has lost hope that this could even happen. I don't know. Because his question was phrased to him about should fans maintain hope, and he doesn't exactly say yes or no.
Yeah,
in any of this. Basically, just saying like I'm kind of with the fans on this one. Warner Brothers doesn't like what I want to do. Warner Brothers doesn't like what we did, but the fan movement is really powerful and passionate and strong. So it's like, yeah, you're echoing kind of the sentiment that we have specifically for the kind of films that he makes, you know?
Yeah.
The sad part is like, I really want them to figure out some way to work with restoring the Snyderverse in some capacity. I do not agree with what, like recently James Gunn was having actually a back and forth with someone on Instagram who was attacking him and kind of putting some blame on him for why the Snyderverse isn't getting, like, that kind of shit I don't agree with. I'm like, you don't need to do that. The pretense or the mindset that I think we can still kind of make this all work. You can still have James Gunn do the Suicide Squad, you know? Like, I'm still really looking forward to that movie. But then you got this side of the spectrum here where, I'll just be honest. I'm starting to lose hope. That's the sad part for me. I will not give up, and I will always champion for it. And the sad part is I myself am at a point. There's already comments I know of like, let it go, guys. Why are we still talking about this? All that jazz. Then there's that other part of me that's like, well, we fought for the Snyder Cut, and that happened. It's a different case.
And it took years.
Yeah. It was filmed. Like for the most part, 99% of it was filmed already, and then they just had to do all the post-production stuff, mainly to get it made. So that's different than like write a new script, start filming the whole new movie, do all this. Let's change the plans of the DC Avenue, because DC is very reactionary with their film studios. So it's like if this current plan they have starts to fail, then they might go, all right, let's revisit the Snyderverse again. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
But I don't wish for those movies to fail. You know, like I still want them to do well. I champion filmmakers essentially, and especially if they are able to keep their creative integrity when making these movies, like what it sounds like James Gunn has talked about with the Suicide Squad. That shit makes me excited. That shit makes me happy. But if we're talking about Snyderverse specifically, you hear scoopers and people and inside reports talk all the time about being anti-Snyder, but then for Zack Snyder to just pretty much flat out say it, that really does that just hits, you know.
It's like seeing your dad come home crestfallen, and you just know, like, things aren't looking up. We're in for rough times.
Because we got to be fair here. No one was able to, well, not no one, but most people around the world were not able to see Zack Snyder's Justice League in the theaters, whereas Avengers Endgame is the highest grossing movie. Well, no, Avatar retook it, but for a while, Avengers Endgame was the highest grossing movie of all time. Most of the world saw that in the theaters, so, you know, it's understandable if not a lot of people went back to revisit it on a streaming platform. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to be fair in that regard of, to me, I'm like, it makes sense that Zack Snyder's Justice League had a chance of surpassing the streaming count worldwide against Avengers Endgame, because the only way you could really watch it is through streaming. So,
yeah, well, and I mean, that was quite intentional from what I understand in China, because Zack Snyder wanted to have a theatrical release, which Warner Bros. Apparently declined to do. So, you know, they only gave the streaming option, and who knows what it might have seen in terms of turnout and success if they had actually had the theatrical market in full swing, you know, or at least as full as it could be.
But I'm going to maintain hope.
Yeah.
I will. I just got to be honest with myself when my feelings get a little hit, you know, when I get a little bit of a punch, I got to be honest about that. But I know me too. You know how many times I've thought about like quitting YouTube? Like, I'm not one to really give up. So, and this is a big community thing. So it's one of those things where it's like, I just got to say it to let it go.
Well,
and then we'll get back to, all right, let's continue the fight now, guys.
Well, exactly. And I mean, there's also a quality where I think some of this, not to say that this is all a machination, but I have to imagine, like, from Zack Snyder's position, he knows what his influence is. And so making a statement like this, I have to feel like in some ways, if not designed to have this effect, will galvanize fans even further. I mean, it kind of drives perhaps this wedge of Snyder versus Warner's kind of further, which is problematic because it does bleed onto other filmmakers and whatnot. But at the same time, I still feel like these are all kind of chess moves in a big public negotiation, and we'll see what happens. Because right now it does read like WB just really is like sticking to their decision just to be stern about it and just to like remind you who's boss, and it doesn't seem like anyone's really winning.
I mean, I think the China numbers can make a big difference, though. If this is in fact a true report, because Hollywood tends so much to China. Everyone knows what the hell I'm talking about. We tend so much to the China market, and the fact that theaters are reopening again, 250 million. That is, did I read this right? Is it 250 million in China alone?
I believe so, yeah.
See, to me, like, I feel like Hollywood would read that and be like, we got to market. It's like, if we already didn't pay attention to it in the U.S., it's definitely there in China.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people. That's a lot of money.
That's tricky.
So
that's a lot of money to leave on the table, yeah. Nielsen, I guess, is like the god of all ratings, and we still don't know what those numbers were, so there could be more. Or not, but still there could be.
Well, yeah. Yeah. This is a good sign. This is a good sign.
It's going to keep people active for the cause.
Restore the Snyderverse.
Restore the Snyderverse.
This is a good sign. All right, guys. Suddenly I have a whole bunch of hope again. My mind just went there.
When you confront that little loss, but also the sneaky little triumphs that can come with it.
Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Hit that like button. Last but not least,
Jason the Dolan. I was just thinking about you. Wanted to shout you out. I've been looking at your Instagram stories, and I love seeing images of you just out in public looking like cyborg, let's say, just, like sweats and some kind of hoodie, trying to blend in, but you can't. You know why? Because you're Jason Dolan. You stand out with your charisma and your sexy face and that stubble that you perpetually have that I've never seen you without. And if there's any filmmaker I would go to bat for to try and maintain the legitimacy of their vision, release the Dolan cut, I say, of our lives, where you're here more often and we all do a massage train or something like that.
Do you know what you're saying most of the time when you do these?
I blacked out. What happened?
Do you know what
Is Jason here? What's going on? I love you.